Hello everybody and welcome to today's video where we're going to be covering vanishing. So it's probably not a secret what vanishing is. It's essentially just the ability to make a player invisible for either one person or multiple people or everybody. Now this is used in so many different places. For example, the most prominent example I can think of is in a staff plugin. Let's say a staff member wants to look around the server, but they don't want people to know they're being watched, in which case you would just vanish yourself, so you'd hide yourself. But the concept's also used in games, basically anywhere where somebody needs to be invisible. Now, we're quite fortunate in this part of the API, and that's because it's actually well implemented. It's very simple to vanish a player, and very simple to unvanish a player, so this is one of those videos where it's really just about showing you the actual functions which you need to use to achieve this. So, the example that I'm going to do today is going to be a command, and my command is going to be /vanish. So we'll do get command, vanish, and then we'll do .set executor, and then we'll create a new class. So I'm just going to call mine vanish command because another command is going to be /vanish. So I did new Kotlin class vanish command. Okay, and then let's make it implement command executor. We'll hover over and we'll make it write that function for us because we're lazy and it's easier to generate itself. And I'll just remove this question mark because it will never be null. Okay, so then I'll also go here, and because I know it's in my plugin.yml, I can not null it by adding the 2 exclamation marks. And then we're going to set the executor of the vanish command to vanish command. So that is to say, whenever somebody runs /vanish, the executor, i.e. the handler of that command, will be our vanish command instance. So we'll head to the plugin.yml, and we will write commands, and then simply just vanish. If you want to add a description, or if you want to add some aliases, anything like that, you're very welcome to. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave it like this because the video here today is just about the actual functions required to vanish somebody. Okay, so I only want my command to be run by a player. Of course, if a console tries to vanish or a command block tries to vanish, then that's going to be quite odd. So what I'll do is if sender is not player, so we have there is not, then return. Now you can add a custom message to the console saying what you can't use it in a console. That's completely up to you. I'm just going to make it so this command can only be run by a player. Okay, so let's think about how to do this. Now, of course, we've seen a toggling video, and it's a very similar concept because you're either in a state of vanished or unvanished, and that's all it is. So it is a toggle in a sense. However, I don't want to directly copy the logic behind that video, and that's because it won't work perfectly. And the reason I say that is because in the toggling video, you'll remember that we had one boolean to enable or disable the chat. Now that made sense because everybody is under the same conditions as each other. But of course, if I want to vanish and you don't want to vanish, then we can't share the same boolean between us. So the way that we would tackle essentially different people having different toggle states, well, what we could do is use a list. So what I'll do, for example, is create a companion object. So I'm going to do companion object, and if you remember this from the Kotlin fundamentals videos or just anywhere else we've covered it, a companion object essentially allows us to put something inside of this code block which will be accessible throughout our entire plugin. Now you may be thinking, why does this need to be accessible throughout the whole plugin? Why does our list of players need to be? Well, that would be because we need to be careful to make sure for a memory leak. Now, a memory leak basically is just essentially leaving something in memory which shouldn't be in memory. So, for example, what we're going to do is val, and then we'll do vanished for a list of all the vanished players, and then we'll create a mutable list of player, mutable just meaning editable. And so what's going to happen is when we put people inside this vanished list, when they vanish, and then, for example, if they quit the server, then they will still remain in this list, even though this player instance will be completely messed up. And so that would be an example of leaving something in memory which shouldn't be in memory, because if the player rejoins and then vanishes and then leaves again, there'll be 2 instances of their broken player class in this list. If they do it a 3rd time, there'll be 3. If they do it 1,000 times, there will be 1,000. And so while it doesn't seem like a massive problem, it can essentially grow into a massive problem. So it's something you really want to get into your head, that it's good practice that if you're ever going to store a list of players or a list of UUIDs or essentially any instance which can disappear at some point, you need to remember to remove it from the list. So what I'm going to do after we've wrote the logic here is make sure that we have an event handler, and that event handler will remove players from this list when they leave the server. So we'll write the logic for the actual vanish command first. So what we need to do is different logic based on whether they are vanished or unvanished. So, that's very simple to do. So we'll do if vanished dot contains sender else. Okay, so if the vanished list contains the sender, that means they are vanished. Then of course, when they run this command, we want to unvanish them. If they aren't in that list, then we want to vanish them. So this is just, essentially it's advanced toggling. In the previous one, we had if the boolean is true, set it to false, if it's false, set it to true. And now we just have the same thing, but if they're in this list. So first thing, of course, is we're going to remove them from the list. So we'll do vanished.remove sender. So if they run /vanish, when they're vanished, they get removed from the list. If they run /vanish when they're not vanished, they get added to the list. Okay. Now the second thing, and this is probably what you came to this video for, is the actual vanish code. So how do you vanish a player inside of the API? Well, it's quite simple. So what we do is we look at this function here. So, there's two functions. There is hide player and there is show player. So it can be a little bit confusing, but let me put it into context. Each player can be hidden or shown to a different player. So imagine 5 people on a server. They can all be hidden to different people. They can be shown to different people. And so what happens is you run this function, show player, on the person whose visibility of people you want to change. So for example, what we would do is bucket.getOnlinePlayers.for each. So for all of the online players, we do it to refer to the target. Well, let's think what we want to do. So we want to unhide them. So we want to make them visible. So we'll do it.showPlayer. And then we'll do the player, so the sender. Okay, we'll copy and paste this. We'll do the exact same. We'll do it.hidePlayer. Okay, so let's look at the logic. If the player is vanished, then loop through all the players on the server and show them to the player because they're vanished, and they run the /vanish command, which means they need to be shown. For this one, if they aren't vanished and they've run the /vanish command, then of course they need to be vanished to everybody, in which case loop through all of the players and run target.hidePlayer. And then the parameter is the sender because that's a player we're either showing or hiding. Okay, and then maybe you want to do something fun, is maybe you want to send a message to the player that's run the command. Send message. We'll just send a plain message. Send plain message. You are now unvanished. Okay, and we'll copy this. We'll pop it in the vanished part and we'll say you are now vanished. Okay, good stuff. So that's all going to work now. And hopefully you can begin to understand the logic we have at play there. It's essentially just a unique and personalized take on toggling. And that's all it is, nothing fancy. Okay, cool. So what we'll do is I'll follow up with my promise. Firstly, let me just address whatever error we have here. We'll click on the line. Okay, I just forgot to return at the end of this function, since that's required in this function. So we'll just return false as always. And then what we're going to do is I'll follow up on my promise and I will make sure that we have our vanish listener. Now, if you want to have a bit of fun and put any other different events here, then absolutely feel free. You're more than welcome to. What I'm going to do is just have the event handler, which I promised, which was going to be fun on player quit. And we'll do player quit event. So this is just like an event as we always do. And we're essentially going to do if, and this is where the companion object comes into play. So as I said, the companion object makes whatever is inside of this, so our list, accessible to any class within our plugin by simply referencing class names. So what we can do is vanish command dot vanished, and that's our player list, and then dot remove e.player. Now you may be thinking, why are we not checking if they are in it first? And well, the reason for that is because you don't actually need to, and that's because this remove function, it says it removes a single instance of the specified element from this collection if it is present, and it'll return true or false whether it was removed. So it doesn't actually matter if the player is in the collection. If they are, they'll get removed. If they're not, it will fail silently and nothing will happen. So adding code just to check if they were in there would just be clutter. Cool, so when the player quits, whether they're in that list or not, we're going to remove them from the list. So now that will be avoiding a memory leak, which means that we know for absolute certain that this list here is absolutely up to date of all the people who are vanished, and that's it. There's nobody who is unvanished or has maybe left the server or anything like this in that list. The only people in this list are people who are currently vanished. So we've just added that logic, and of course we need to do the other side of it. So we'll do bucket get plugin manager, register events, and we'll do a new instance of vanish listener, and then an instance of our main class, which is this. Okay, perfect. So I think I've probably explained this just enough so that you know everything that's going on here. It's not too complicated, but it is a little bit more advanced than the previous videos, so hopefully you get the gist of what's going on. What I'm going to do is go ahead and fire this up on my server, and I will grab myself an alternate account and I'll go ahead and test it. If you find that you don't have an alternate Minecraft account, I completely understand. What you could maybe do is you could join our Discord server and you could talk with the community and you can see if anybody would be willing to help you test your plugin. And that would be a cool way to test and get involved in the community. But I happen to have an alt, so I'll go ahead and fire up the server. I'll fire up 2 instances of Minecraft and we'll go test if we can vanish to each other. Alright, so I'll do Gradle, run server, and I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, so we've got a little bit of a multi-account setup here. I've joined the server. I'm on, this is my main account here, and this is my alternate account here. And you can see that we can both see each other. So firstly, my plugin is here, so that's we've at least done step 1. And then the next thing we're going to do is do /vanish. So I just did /vanish on my main account. It says you are now vanished, and notice that I now can't see the person that vanished. If I press tab, I can't see them in the tab list. If I walk around, I can't see the particles on the ground for them walking, as you see. And this is the reason I said at the start of this video that this is such a good system, is because they've actually implemented it really nicely. It's not as hacky as just adding, for example, an invisibility potion effect where you can see particles and it's just messy. This is actually a great way of doing a vanish. It's perfectly hidden and it's great. So on my main account, of course, I know I'm still here, which is why I can see myself in the tab list, but nobody else on the server knows that I'm there. So for example, if I was to vanish on the second account, we'd have a bit of vanish inception. So neither player can see each other, but we're both here. And then if we both just unvanish, you'll see we've both arrived back on each other's screens. And there you go. So that's a pretty perfect vanish system. That's it. That's all I can really do on vanish. It's not a huge topic, but it's one that does require a little bit of thought. So if you need any assistance, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And hopefully you understood it all. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.